The New Year holiday was over, and my boyfriend, back from his hometown, asked me out for dinner. Suddenly, I heard his inner thoughts. You idiot simp of a woman. Do you really think I love you? I'm just after your money. Sweet talking you for it. Oh, so, you're after my money? Good. Not only will I make you cough up every penny you've taken from me, but I'll also make sure you lose everything and end up in jail. Chapter 1. The New Year holiday was over, and everyone was returning to work and school. My boyfriend Pablo came back from his hometown and asked me out for dinner, saying he had bought me a gift. I was excited and even bought him a new LV belt and the latest model phone. I waited for over an hour in the cold wind with my bag in hand before Pablo finally rushed over. He hugged me and kissed me on the cheek, saying, "Sweetheart, the traffic was terrible. Have you been waiting long?" All the frustration I had felt while waiting instantly melted away. Just as I was about to speak, I heard another voice, so disgusting. "It's like kissing a pig." I froze, looking up in shock, only to see Pablo wiping his mouth with a tissue. Then, I heard another voice. I had to comfort this idiot woman, and now poor Sophia had to take a taxi home. I wonder if she even managed to get a cab. Sophia? Sophia? What's going on? Pablo's so-called gift was nothing more than a single rose and a cheap, small lipstick in the color of deathly Barbie pink. "My love, this flower symbolizes my undying love for you," Pablo said, handing me the rose while casually reaching for the LV bag and the phone in my hand. He smiled widely at the sight of the luxury bags. At the same time, I heard another voice. "Good thing I got Sophia some skincare products and a free lipstick sample. Otherwise, I would have had to spend money on this pig. Seriously, she doesn't even know her place. Thank God for the LV and the new iPhone, or this would be unbearable." If this had been in the past, when Pablo reached out to take the gift I bought him, I would have handed it over without a second thought. But today, after hearing his inner thoughts, I couldn't help but hide the bag behind my back. I smiled and said, "Sweetheart, do you think you can fool me with just a lipstick sample?" I saw Pablo's expression freeze for a moment, but he quickly recovered and gave me a flattering smile, saying he just liked my natural look. He added that makeup was bad for the skin and not good for my health. Of course, I heard his inner thoughts again, filled with nothing but curses. I clenched my fist, really wanting to slap him hard across the face. But I held back. Confronting him now would be too easy for this jerk. "No way. You're taking me to a fancy dinner," I said, pointing to a Japanese restaurant across the street. "Camila, sushi is raw, and the internet says it might have parasites. How about we get some steak instead?" Pablo suggested. "Ha." I laughed coldly inside. I knew he didn't like sushi, but did he not know I didn't eat steak? I headed straight for the sushi place, and Pablo had no choice but to follow. Of course, I heard his inner thoughts again, still full of profanity. I really couldn't believe that this supposedly refined and elegant man had such a filthy mind, worse than a street vendor's foul-mouthed tirade. Still, no matter how nasty his thoughts were, I wasn't going to say a word. I would pretend not to know. What I wanted to figure out now was why Pablo, who didn't even like me, had pursued me in the first place. Once we were seated at the sushi restaurant, I started ordering salmon, peony shrimp, sea urchin, and more. After ordering a good amount, I acted as if I had suddenly remembered him and asked, "What would you like?" "Just some fried rice," Pablo said. I smiled brightly, while his inner voice sneered, "Eat, eat, eat. Pigs don't even eat as much as you. You're going to eat yourself to death." As I enjoyed my salmon, I casually asked, "Pablo, do you love me?" "Of course, darling," Pablo said confidently. His expression perfectly matched to his words, though there was a hint of disdain in his eyes. His inner voice said, "I'd rather like a pig than like you." "So, what exactly do you like about me?" I asked on purpose. "I like everything about you," Pablo said, his inner voice. "I'm only interested in your family's money." "You idiot. Once we're married and you eat yourself to death, I'll inherit everything." The chopsticks in my hand clattered to the ground with a loud clink, and my heart seemed to skip a beat. I had already known he was a scumbag after hearing his inner thoughts, But I hadn't expected his goal was to kill me and inherit my family's wealth. As I bent down to pick up my chopsticks, I heard his inner voice again. She's eating like this, with that heart-clearing tea working its magic. I won't have to wait 10 years. Chapter 2. Heart-clearing tea? My mind roared as the realization hit me. This was the beauty tea that Pablo had given me, claiming it was a special product from his hometown. He said drinking it regularly would make my skin smooth and fair. I had believed him, drinking it every night, and my weight, it shot up. Originally, I wasn't very overweight. In high school, I had gained a little during the pandemic, dealing with stress from school, but with my height of 168 centimeters, 5 feet 6 inches, my weight hovered around 130 pounds, and thanks to my well-proportioned figure, I still looked quite balanced. Then, after starting my relationship with Pablo and drinking his heart-clearing tea, my weight skyrocketed, shooting up to 154 pounds. I gripped the chopsticks tightly. At that moment, the waiter hurried over and graciously replaced my chopsticks. After we had almost finished the meal, I excused myself to go to the bathroom and told Pablo to wait. Instead, I grabbed my things and left. Half an hour later, Pablo called me, and I answered with a cheerful tone. "Darling, it's the new year, and you bought me a single rose and a tiny lipstick sample. Who knows if it was just a freebie with something else you bought? Did you really expect me to pay for the meal?" With that, I hung up. I had liked Pablo since high school, just like it's written in books. Love came out of nowhere, and I fell deeply. It seemed like the first moment of excitement happened when I saw him running around the basketball court. His tall figure in the sunlight looked like it was bathed in a golden glow. Sunshine, handsome, those were the labels that defined him. I fell for him instantly. One day, I found an opportunity and secretly slipped him a love letter, then ran away, feeling shy. From that day on, I eagerly waited for his reply, hoping to see him in the hallways or on the playground, where every glance made my heart race. But by the end of high school, I still hadn't received a reply. Later, we both ended up at the same university, and I thought it must have been fate. Of course, since he hadn't replied to my letter in high school, I wasn't going to confess again. During our freshman year, he confessed his love to Sophia. Since they were dating, I put away all my feelings and stopped paying attention to him, even though Sophia was in my dorm, and I heard all sorts of news about him. I pretended not to care. After dating for about 6 months, Pablo and Sophia had a big argument and broke up. About a month after their breakup, Pablo came to me and confessed his feelings. At that time, I was thrilled. He spoke to me with such affection. "Darling, back in high school, I received your love letter, but I was so focused on my studies that I didn't have the chance to reply. When we got to university, he claimed that he got distracted by Sophia and almost missed his chance with me." As he said this, he embraced me and whispered, "Thankfully, I came to my senses. Otherwise, missing out on you would have been the biggest regret of my life." I was deeply touched at the time. Not long after we started dating, he gave me a specialty called Tongshin cha and emphasized that it was a rare specialty from his hometown, grown on cliffs, with a very limited supply. He even warned me not to share it with anyone else. Of course, I believed him. What I didn't realize was how devious and cruel this man could be, planning to slowly harm me with something that seemed harmless but was secretly designed to make me gain weight and ruin my health. No wonder that every time we met, he insisted on buying me milk tea, sweets, and fried snacks, everything high in calories. When I returned home, Sophia was there to open the door for me. I owned a place in the city, and when the school break started, Sophia had come to me in tears, claiming that her family favored boys so much that her mother, after giving birth to a second son, left no place for her at home. She said she wasn't going back and begged me to let her stay for the winter break. She promised she'd do the housework to pay for her rent, but after she moved in, all she did was hide in her room, live streaming her dances and songs, causing the neighbors to complain to me multiple times. Housework? I did some, and the cleaning lady did the rest. I hadn't seen Sophia lift a finger. One time, after dinner, I asked her to wash the dishes. She replied that she had just gotten her nails done for over 300 yuan. That's when I caught a whiff of the perfume she was wearing, the very same one Pablo had asked me to buy at the end of last year. Ha! So that's who it was for, his little lover. Why are you back so early? I thought you were going to have dinner and see a movie, Sophia asked as I changed my shoes. I responded casually. Sophia, the holidays are over, and today's the 8th day of the new year. It's a good day. Time for you to move out. Sophia's mouth formed an O shape. Chapter 3. I looked at Sophia's expression and wanted to laugh. Sophia, don't blame me. You know, my boyfriend came back, and when he found out you were staying at my place, he got a little upset. I said deliberately, when I got back. I calculated the time Sophia had been staying at my place, and when Pablo returned, he first went on a date with her. Afraid I'd find out, he arranged for me to meet him at a designated place, where I waited in the cold for an hour and a half, while he used that time to go on a date with Sophia. Now, my plan was twofold. First, to drive Sophia away. Second, to stir up trouble between the two of them to vent some anger. After all, you are his ex-girlfriend, I said, spreading my hands. As soon as I opened my mouth to send her away, Sophia didn't put up much resistance. She started packing her things, not forgetting to live stream at the same time. Kicked out by my nasty landlord on the 8th day of the new year. Moving out. I wasn't on camera, but I made sure my voice was loud enough for everyone in her live stream to hear. Sophia, you've been living at my place for a month and a half, eating my food, using my things, and not paying a penny in rent. How exactly am I a nasty landlord? Sophia clearly didn't expect me to follow her into the room. Camila, this is my room, Sophia said, her face turning sour. This is my home, I sneered, glancing at her suitcase. Wow, the nerve she has. My LV bag, my skincare set, perfume, lipstick. She had been using these while she was here, but now she was planning to pack them all up and take them with her? I immediately told her to leave behind everything that belonged to me. You've been freeloading off my things while staying here. Fine, but now you're packing them to take with you? Shouldn't you just pack me up and take me too? I teased in a sarcastic tone. The live stream chat blew up, with comments flying by, most of them saying, "What's going on? Isn't that Sophia's stuff? Oh my god. Using someone else's lipstick? Isn't that gross?" Of course, I would never use anything Sophia had touched in the past. If she wanted something, I would generously give it to her. But now, she wouldn't even get to take a single tissue pack from me. Sophia quickly ended the live stream. Her face twisted like everyone owed her 5 million. She finished packing and dragged her suitcase to the door. Sophia, take off the clothes you're wearing. I cleared my throat and said. Sophia glanced down at her clothes. It was from Chanel. Since I couldn't fit into it, she had shamelessly claimed it as her own. Her face darkened, and after a moment of hesitation, she forced a smile and said, Camila, you can't wear it anyway, so why not just give it to me? I smiled sweetly and shook my head. Nope. It's better we draw clear boundaries from now on. Watching her gritting her teeth as she angrily took off the clothes and threw them at me, I smiled and kindly reminded her, it's quite cold outside. You know. Less than half an hour after Sophia left, Pablo suddenly called me. TSK. Couldn't wait. Could he? The show was just getting started. Camila, in this freezing weather, why did you kick Sophia out? Pablo's voice carried a hint of reproach. I deliberately asked. How do you know? Are you still tangled up with her? What do you take me for? Before he could respond, I continued. If your heart aches for her, go ahead and chase after her. Don't bother with me. With that, I hung up the phone. I used to like Pablo very much, always treating him with the utmost care, treasuring this hard-won love. But after hearing his true intentions, knowing that he pursued me for my money, I realized that no matter what I did, he would never give up on the big prize he thought he was about to claim. Chapter 4. About 10 minutes later, Pablo called again. I didn't answer. In the past, there were plenty of times he didn't answer my calls, left me hanging, sweet-talked me into buying him this and that, and even made me transfer money or send him red envelopes. Now, I'm just giving him a taste of his own medicine. This apartment of mine is on the top floor, and there's a loft upstairs. I ran up there and started doing workout videos for weight loss. Losing weight needs to start today, not tomorrow. And as a girl, who doesn't want to look good? I weigh over 150 pounds and was often mocked at school, called fat. I've tried all kinds of diets and weight loss methods, but nothing worked. After doing the workout for half an hour, I was drenched in sweat. My legs and arms were sore, but surprisingly, I felt light and refreshed. I turned to glance at my phone, and Pablo had called twice more. I continued pretending I didn't see it, leaving him hanging. After I showered, Pablo called again. This time, I answered. Sweetheart, don't be mad. I'm just checking in as an old friend. That's all. Besides, with you living alone in such a big apartment, I just worry about you, you know? How about moving in with you, Wei? After all, you two are friends. I sneered and said, Pablo, if she was moving out from my place, why would she go to you instead of someone else? Fine, you two carry on. Just don't bother me. With that, I hung up and blocked his number. Of course, I only blocked his calls. I kept him on WeChat. I wanted to see what he'd do next. From what I know about those two, they must be sweet talking each other behind my back right now, probably complaining about who leaked the secret. At around 10 p.m., Pablo showed up at my house with Sophia. Chapter 5. When I opened the door and saw the two of them, I was genuinely surprised. I had imagined all sorts of scenarios, but I didn't think they'd be shameless enough to show up at my door in person. What do you want? I leaned against the doorframe and asked. Pablo tried to hug me, but I pushed him away. I could hear his inner thoughts. Damn, she's really mad. What should I do? He said he wanted to explain everything in person, that he and Sophia had broken up a long time ago, after Sophia left my place. She had nowhere to go. So out of desperation, she messaged him for help. As her ex, you can help her figure something out, I replied. Sophia looked at me with those pitiful eyes, desperately trying to explain that she really had nothing to do with Pablo anymore. She begged me not to misunderstand, saying that since it was just after the new year, school hadn't resumed, and she couldn't get into the student dorms or find a place to rent. She asked me to let her stay for a few more days. Camila, I can clean, do laundry, cook. Please, let me stay for just a few more days. She put on an innocent, pitiful look, her eyes welling up with tears. Next to her, Pablo said that he came personally to explain everything, hoping I wouldn't take it the wrong way. Sorry, but I do mind, I said. With that, I started to close the door. Of course, in that brief moment, I could hear all of Pablo's inner thoughts, filled with curses, and a bit of panic. Yes, he was definitely panicking right now, because Sophia believed what I had told her. After leaving my place, she called him, demanding to know why he let me kick her out and asking if he was thinking of ditching her to chase after me for a better life. Now it was Sophia insisting that he come here and talk to me in person. Sophia even gave an ultimatum: either Pablo books her a 5-star hotel tonight, or she moves back into my place. Moving back here? That's absolutely not happening. I looked at Sophia with a mocking smile and asked her, don't you feel awkward living with your ex-boyfriend's current girlfriend? Or are you really so broke that you need your ex-boyfriend's current girlfriend to support you? Aren't you supposed to be playing the rich heiress role in your live stream? Don't let that persona fall apart. A while ago, when Sophia was staying here and streaming, of course, I watched her streams. She shamelessly took photos all over my apartment, flaunting my luxury items online, claiming they were hers. She never cared whether I'd mind or not. In the end, Sophia's pride couldn't handle my mockery, and she turned around, dragging her suitcase as she left. Pablo glanced at me, then at her, hesitating about whether to follow her. I closed the door, making the choice for him. Then, through the door, I heard his inner thoughts. Damn it, I'll deal with this stupid B*** later. I sneered. Ha, who's going to deal with who is still up in the air? Chapter 6. An hour later, Sophia posted on her social media that she had checked into a 5-star hotel. I laughed. Just as I expected, it's easy to go from frugal to lavish, but hard to go back. During the time she stayed with me, she always sweet-talked her way into using my things, eating my food, wearing my clothes, and helping herself to my belongings, from small items like skincare samples to bigger things like bags. By the end of last year, she had moved into my place, getting used to the spacious bedroom, the walk-in closet, and the huge bathroom, spoiling herself with a life of luxury. Now, Pablo wants her to stay in an ordinary hotel, but she's not used to it. She can't help but compare herself to me, always trying to one-up me. How long will Pablo's allowance last her? A whole week went by without me making any moves, but I had ramped up my workout intensity. I have to lose weight. I'm not aiming to be super skinny, but I need to get back to a healthy size. I had originally gotten a gym membership and used to go running occasionally, but people tend to be lazy. Pablo used to tell me that girls with a little extra weight are cute. Sophia would flatter me, saying I didn't look chubby at all, that my skin was great, and my facial features were perfect, which made me drift through life, never once considering my own issues. Now, I've had a sudden realization I need to lose weight. For the past week, I've practically lived at the gym, running, doing yoga, and following all the tasks my personal trainer assigned. Every day, I'd break into a sweat several times. The first 2 days, I could barely lift my legs. But after cutting out sugary drinks and intense workouts combined with controlled eating, my weight started dropping fast. The pants I bought during the new year no longer fit around my waist. I stepped on the scale, over 10 pounds lost. I was shocked. It's true, nothing is impossible if you set your mind to it. Of course, during this week, Pablo had messaged me several times, but I ignored him. When I felt the timing was right, the luxury jewelry and bags I ordered arrived. After taking some photos, I posted on my social media, showing off a bag and jewelry supposedly gifted by a childhood friend. Sophia liked the post, then quickly disliked it. Pablo asked me where this childhood friend came from. I still didn't respond to him. In the past, he'd always use a tantrum as an excuse, and I'd buy him gifts to smooth things over, terrified of losing our love. Now that I think about it, it's utterly ridiculous. Now, knowing his true intentions, I realize that no matter how much drama I cause, he won't give up so easily, especially after he's already gotten the benefits. As expected, by the evening, Pablo came looking for me, but this time, the security guard stopped him at the entrance. A few days ago, I had specifically asked the security to notify me before letting any visitors through. Pablo, tell him to go back. I don't want to see him, I said directly. On the other end, I could hear Pablo grabbing the phone from the guard, shouting, "Sweetheart, don't be like this. We must have some misunderstanding. Let's talk in person." I hesitated deliberately before agreeing, but instead of inviting him to my place, I suggested meeting at a nearby cafe. I took my time changing clothes and doing my makeup, dragging it out for about an hour before finally heading out. In the past, he was always late to our dates, making me wait every time. It wasn't until I accidentally overheard his inner thoughts last time that I realized he was doing it on purpose. Apparently, he'd read some social literature that said playing hard to get is the key to flirting. Since he enjoys playing hard to get, why not let him experience it himself? Chapter 7. When I arrived at the cafe, I noticed that Pablo's gaze seemed different, like he was seeing me in a new light. Up close, I could hear his inner thoughts again. Damn, why does she suddenly look prettier? How did she lose so much weight? Did she stop drinking that tea? I smirked internally and called the waiter, ordering coffee and a few pastries. Only then did I ask him, "What do you want to talk about?" Pablo smiled apologetically and started explaining the situation with Sophia over and over. "Camila, I only helped her because you two are friends. I didn't want you to lose a good friend because of me. There's absolutely nothing between us." I raised my hand to cut him off and told him that a friend of mine had seen him on a date with Sophia. As I spoke, I pulled out the lipstick he had given me from my bag and tossed it to him. I asked around. "This sample is only given when you purchase a gift set at the counter. You gave her the set and gave me the leftover lipstick?" "Pablo, don't make me say something unpleasant." As I said this, I deliberately showed off my new Chanel bag. Pablo's face turned from green to red, and his inner thoughts were filled with curses, some of them really nasty. To my surprise, this time, he wasn't just cursing at me, he was cursing at Sophia too. Camila, listen to me. Pablo suddenly hugged me, even trying to kiss me, but I pushed him away. Then, I pulled out my phone and sent him a message. Pablo quickly opened it. For the Lantern Festival. I want this. My friends already have it. I said bluntly. Pablo, my mom came to visit me during the new year, and she's really not satisfied with you. With that, I grabbed my bag and walked out. I heard Pablo's inner voice, damn it. I'll just treat it as an investment. I sneered. Yeah, I'm just afraid you won't want to invest, right? The picture I sent him was of a high-end handmade gold jewelry item from a niche brand in China, not too expensive. A little over 50,000. The benefit? It's exclusive. There are no knockoffs on the market. So even if he wanted to fool me with a fake, he couldn't. As for how Pablo's going to come up with the money to buy it, that's not my concern. As I was about to leave, Pablo grabbed my arm and asked me to pay the bill. Pablo, you're making me pay for this date? I asked him. Sweetheart, I didn't bring any money today. Pablo begged in a low voice. No money? I deliberately raised my voice. After dating him for over 2 years, I knew exactly what he was like. He's vain, loves to compare himself to others, and his biggest fear is being called poor. Shoo, sweetheart, keep your voice down. Pablo quickly waved his hands at me, trying to quiet me. Pablo, cheating on me is bad enough, but you want to negotiate with me and you're too stingy to even buy flowers? I shook my head and said, I'll pay the bill, but don't ever come looking for me again. Pablo's inner thoughts were honestly unbearable to listen to, full of curses mixed with dialect from his hometown. I intentionally said, these days, it's all about paying by scanning QR codes. Who are you trying to fool by saying you didn't bring money? I leaned in close and whispered to him, Pablo, don't tell me you can't even afford a cup of coffee? If that's the case, what kind of big shot do you think you are in the dating world? Why don't you go home and study more? Of course not. Pablo quickly assured me he had money, and hurried off to pay the bill. Chapter 8. For the Lantern Festival. Pablo smartened up this time and arranged a date with me first. From his inner thoughts, I found out he had also arranged to meet with Sophia. Recently, Sophia had been throwing tantrums at him as well. The plan to use my love for him to take over my family's assets was something he and Sophia had devised together. Now, Sophia was threatening him if he dared to betray her. She would tell me everything about their plan, to avoid losing everything. Pablo was now spending money on both sides to keep us both happy. Of course, Pablo's persona around me was that he came from a wealthy family with farms, 2 pig farms, and a prosperous background. He acted like a proper rich young master. I used to believe him, until I heard his inner thoughts. That's when I realized his hometown was actually poor, and he had a younger brother who couldn't even afford to go to school. The only reason he was able to attend college was that, as a kid, he had some smarts and good looks. A distant uncle took a liking to him and brought him to his home to be a companion for his son. However, by high school, Pablo had picked up some bad habits and fell out with his uncle and cousin. So, from college onward, that distant uncle had washed his hands of him entirely. When he entered college, Pablo didn't focus on learning. Instead, he learned how to compare himself to others, becoming lazy and entitled. His family doesn't have a pig farm. They only have 2 pigs. The weight loss tea he gave me is actually a specialty from his hometown. Meant for pigs, it makes them fat really quickly. I posted the gifts Pablo gave me on social media, but this time, I said it so only 2 people could see it, Sophia and Pablo. I refused to believe Sophia wouldn't cause a fuss with Pablo after seeing that gold and diamond-encrusted jewelry. The great thing about gold is that even if you don't know much about it, you still know it's expensive. That's why I asked Pablo for this gift. I was afraid of niche luxury items that Sophia might not recognize, and Pablo could easily deceive her. 3 days later, I saw on Sophia's social media that she had posted gold and diamond-encrusted jewelry too, but it was clearly a smaller, less expensive version. Over the next few days, Pablo tried his hardest to win me over. As for me, if I was in a good mood, I'd reply to him a bit. If not, I'd pretend not to see his messages, focusing on my workouts and reading. Anyone who has tried to lose weight knows that at the beginning of a weight loss journey, if your workout is intense enough and you control your diet, the pounds drop off quickly. In the second week, I lost only 6 pounds, bringing my weight down to around 133. My personal trainer at the gym told me that my waist and stomach were already slim, and my clothes looked good on me. The focus now was on my thighs. It was going to be a long battle, so I shouldn't rush it. She reassured me, saying that since I'm tall and my waist and stomach are toned, my clothes would look great. Slightly thicker thighs aren't a big deal. I could wear wide leg pants or long skirts. I smiled and said that my goal was to get below 120 pounds. On Valentine's Day, with a little hint from me, Pablo booked a restaurant early, bought 99 roses, and got me an LV bag. It seemed like he was willing to spend a lot this time. From his inner thoughts, I found out that he had taken out an online loan. But that wasn't the main point. The important thing was that he had learned his lesson this time. He bought me a genuine LV bag, while Sophia got a knockoff. In the evening, I posted on social media again, along with the LV bag, the flowers, and the high-end restaurant. I added a diamond bracelet, claiming it was a gift from my boyfriend. Pablo didn't look too happy. I intentionally said to him, "Look at you, being so stingy. It's just a regular bag." And my friends would laugh at me for this. If my mom finds out my boyfriend is this cheap, she'd definitely say, "If a man can't even spend money on you while dating, it's clear he doesn't love you." I poked his forehead with my finger and said, "I'm doing this to help you save face. You know." I heard Pablo's inner voice, "Damn it. I should have just stuck with this woman from the start. How the hell do I get rid of that idiot Sophia? Weird. Why am I realizing now that Camila is prettier than Sophia?" I chuckled. Back when I first started school, my grandmother told me, "These days, it's not safe for girls to dress up too nicely. Camila, you need to know how to keep a low profile." I thought she made a lot of sense, so I purposely dressed in a plain, old-fashioned way. Plus, I was chubby, which made me look both old-fashioned and overweight. Now, I've deliberately put effort into my appearance. With my naturally great skin and striking facial features, I was looking my best. Today, I wore a white knitted long dress with a red belt to highlight my slim waist. My hair was down, and I paired the outfit with expensive ruby earrings, adding a splash of color. "Want to watch a movie?" I asked Pablo. He looked at me and nodded eagerly. TSK. Did he forget he had also planned to see a movie with Sophia? Less than 30 minutes into the movie, Pablo's phone started ringing nonstop. He went out twice to take the calls. His inner thoughts were full of curses, directed at Sophia. Later, he outright blocked Sophia. When the movie ended and we stepped out of the theater, I spotted Sophia in the crowd, her face cold and looking extremely displeased. I knew Pablo and Sophia had planned to see a movie at this theater. I could hear his inner thoughts. I had intentionally timed everything perfectly, just to bump into Sophia. Chapter 9. Pablo tried to pretend he didn't see her, but I deliberately walked over and called out loudly, "Sophia, are you here to watch a movie too?" When she saw me, Sophia shot Pablo a glare and forced a slightly awkward smile as she greeted me. I looked at the LV bag she was holding, leaned in close, and sneered. "Even if I didn't agree to lend you my bag, you didn't have to buy a fake one to show off, did you? Look at this. It's not even a good replica, the stitching is crooked." With that, I waved for Pablo to follow me, and we walked away. Pablo's inner voice was hilarious, filled with curses, at me, at Sophia, and at the lousy knockoff seller. He was wondering why they couldn't make a better fake. TSK. What do you expect for $300? Besides the stitching, the color and pattern were all wrong. If Sophia took a closer look at home, she'd figure it out too. I bet Pablo wouldn't have a good night tonight. Sure enough, after dropping me off at the entrance to my building, he hurried off. From that distance, I couldn't hear his inner thoughts, but I could imagine Pablo's night wasn't going to be pleasant. And I was right. When I saw him the next day, his eyes were dark and puffy, and his voice was hoarse. After Valentine's Day, School started again. Pablo came to me asking to borrow money, saying it was for tuition. His excuse was that all his money was tied up in funds and stocks, so he needed me to lend him some cash to tide him over for a few days. He promised to pay me back soon. I thought about it seriously for a moment and agreed, but I made him write an IOU. Sweetheart, we really need a written note? Pablo asked, clearly not pleased. Even with family, you settle accounts clearly, I replied. If he didn't agree, that was fine by me. With that, I turned to leave, left with no choice. Pablo wrote the IOU. I casually remarked, you must have made a good profit from those funds and stocks if you've even put your tuition money into them, right? He mumbled a vague response. Don't forget to buy me a gift for Women's Day, I said, holding my head high. My childhood friend studying abroad is coming back, so don't make me lose face. Pablo's expression darkened. After the school term started, I naturally ran into Sophia every day. We're in the same dorm, after all, but I hadn't been staying in the dorm much since I have an apartment nearby. Now, I started staying in the dorm a few nights here and there. Originally, when Pablo asked me for money, he never hesitated. It started with a few hundred, then a few thousand. Eventually, during holidays and festivals, if I didn't transfer five-figure amounts, he'd throw a tantrum. I used to be so in love that I never questioned it, always relying on my wealth, thinking I could buy love. I never imagined it was all just a joke. The greed of men knows no bounds. Once they get something for nothing, their appetite only grows. Not only did Pablo take my money to live the rich young master lifestyle, but he also used it to support other women. Recently, I listed all my expenses from the 2 years I'd been with Pablo. Just the money I transferred and the red envelopes amounted to over 300,000 yuan. And that doesn't even include the expensive gifts he coaxed me into giving him, both openly and secretly. Without my financial support, Sophia's rich girl persona couldn't hold up anymore. In the dorm, she'd always carried herself like a spoiled heiress, which didn't win her many friends. Now, people finally had their chance to mock her, saying things like, did your family go bankrupt? Can't afford Chanel anymore? Sophia, do you wear the same pair of shoes all year? And others said, Sophia, this outfit is so terrible, I wouldn't be caught dead in it. How can you even wear it? Lately, Pablo has been clinging to me more than ever. From his inner thoughts, I found out he's planning how to dump Sophia and settle down with me for good. It's exactly as I suspected. These two were in it together. But the slightest storm has their ship sinking. Chapter 10. For Women's Day, Pablo really splurged. He bought me a bracelet and took me out to dinner. Then, he started subtly probing about my family's wealth. I half-jokingly, half-seriously told him, my parents are divorced, so they divided their assets early on. As for me, I don't have that much money, just a little over 1 billion. I watched as his face filled with shock. He asked, is all that money yours alone? I nodded, pretending it was no big deal, and said, my grandfather says I studied literature, so I won't be able to make money. He's planning to give me a building in Haicheng so I can just live off the rental income. My dad remarried, so I won't get much from him. I don't have any inheritance rights to the family business, at most. I'll get 2 companies. As for my grandmother's side, they'll probably leave me some property and savings. I shrugged. That's about it. What about you, Pablo? He stammered and mumbled, claiming his family has 2 factories, but it was clear even he wasn't convinced by his own story. I smiled and started painting a grand picture for him, telling him that after graduation, I'll just focus on writing. No need to find a job. Now that the pandemic is over, I'm planning to travel the world, taking in the sights as I go. As the elders say, reading thousands of books is no better than traveling thousands of miles. I added with a smile, my dad wants me to marry into another wealthy family. There have been a few matchmakers approaching him lately, but we'll see. At this point, I shrugged again. Darling, no. Pablo became flustered and quickly asked, don't you love me anymore? University romances are all about fleeting moments. I said with a laugh, Pablo, don't take it too seriously. As long as we're having fun now, that's all that matters. Who really expects a university romance to turn into marriage? After dinner, I insisted on paying the bill. Pablo's inner thoughts were pretty amusing. He was silently gritting his teeth, swearing to himself that he absolutely had to win me over so he wouldn't have to worry about money for the rest of his life. Now, he no longer wanted to get rid of me and run off with Sophia. Instead, he was eager to use me as his ticket to climb into high society. He made up his mind, tonight. He was going to be honest with Sophia and break up with her. After getting home, I fully charged my phone and kept an eye on Sophia's social media and her livestream. With such an exciting turn of events, I really didn't want to miss anything. But by midnight, everything was quiet. I was a bit confused, wondering if I had misread the situation. Could it be that Pablo, that scumbag, actually managed to convince Sophia to agree to break up? In theory, that seemed impossible, right? Recently, not only had he racked up online loans, but Sophia's credit card was also overdue. At 11 p.m., I went to bed. I figured that by the time I got to school the next day, I could gather some clues from Pablo's inner thoughts. Early the next morning, I was woken up by my phone ringing. When I answered, it was the police. They asked if I was available to answer some questions. From the police, I learned that Pablo and Sophia had gotten into a huge argument last night. Pablo had told her that I was his true love and suggested they break up. Sophia threatened him, saying she'd agree to the breakup only if he gave her 1 million yuan. And if he didn't, she would reveal the truth about the weight loss tea to me. The argument escalated, and in a fit of rage, Pablo grabbed a fruit knife and threatened her. During the struggle, Sophia kicked Pablo in the groin and was about to call me to expose everything. Furious, Pablo slashed Sophia's face with the fruit knife and stabbed her in the abdomen. Sophia's cries for help alerted her roommate, who called the police. The police arrived quickly, took Sophia to the hospital for emergency treatment, and arrested Pablo. Because of their statements, I was also dragged into the situation. The police asked if I could provide a sample of the weight loss tea so they could test it for the effects Sophia had mentioned. I pretended to be confused and asked the officers, didn't they say they already broke up? Everyone at school knew about it. Why were they still entangled? The police spoke to me seriously, advising me not to flaunt my wealth in public. In this day and age, it's dangerous to attract thieves. And look at this, they had plotted to take my life. The breakup was just a facade. Chapter 11. The weight loss tea was tested and confirmed to cause weight gain, along with having mild toxicity that could lead to an accelerated heart rate and palpitations. In other words, long-term consumption could indeed result in death. The police told me I could press charges or settle privately with a letter of understanding. How could I possibly settle privately? Of course, I pressed charges. I hired a top-tier lawyer and took both Pablo and Sophia to court. The stab wound Sophia suffered in her abdomen injured her uterus. The doctor said she might never be able to have children. Of course, what concerned her the most wasn't her abdomen, but her once prized face, which was now permanently disfigured. Her family was of modest means, with a younger brother at home, and her parents were indifferent toward her. They refused to pay for her reconstructive surgery. So, she also sued Pablo, demanding compensation. Meanwhile, Pablo's online loans had been overdue for a while. When the lenders found out he'd been arrested, they realized they wouldn't even get back the principal, let alone the interest. So they sued him too. Thanks to solid evidence and the fact that I had an excellent lawyer, Sophia was sentenced to 1.5 years, while Pablo was sentenced to 7 years. After Pablo's sentencing, I could no longer hear his inner thoughts. I knew that from then on, we had no connection whatsoever. Chapter 12 Epilogue. Both Pablo and Sophia were sent to prison and expelled from school. I stopped drinking the weight loss tea and, combined with exercise and diet control, maintained a healthy weight of around 110 pounds. I didn't go overboard trying to get thinner. Many people told me I was beautiful now, and even some of the best guys at school pursued me. The rest of my university life was filled with joy. However, I was torn between two decisions. Should I pursue love and marriage or focus on grad school? It's such a dilemma. Such a dilemma. Such a dilemma. Such a dilemma. Such a dilemma.